story of Moloch Tropical is about the two last days of a president democratically elected and who is on the verge of losing his power. And it's about the craziness of this inner cell of power. And as you say, as you know, one say power, absolute power, corrupt absolutely, and that's the case. And it's a crazy comedy drama around power. Of course, I was basically inspired by part of the history, recent history of Haiti, but as well, don't forget, the character is elected. He's not a dictator. And I refer to that as well of certain, I would say, behavior that I see as well in Europe. When you take the case of a Berlusconi, by example, he's elected, he's legitimate, but as well he have a way to use his power in a very abusive way. And this is, in fact, the thematic of my film. It's not so much about any exotic country far away. It's about what have democracy become today in certain countries, mostly Latin countries. In France as well, you may question how some politicians behave, because politics in France gives you enormous power, which you don't have in the northern country of Europe, in places like Sweden or Norway, where it's much more simpler and much more closer to the people, to the population. So the question in my film it's about all this behavior, the ones that President Clinton had, because it's about sex, it's about human relationship, about the aphrodisiac aspect of political power. You have as well the behavior of a former President Bush, where he was capable of shutting up a whole room full of journalists and obviously saying things that did not make sense, but nobody dared ask him real questions. So all of these are not very far away attitudes. Those are collections of stuff that I have put together in one story. As you say, I was Minister of Culture, and what saved me in that position was that the fact that I never intended to become a professional politician. It was a collective decision, so I never did all the stuff that you need to do as a politician to succeed and to stay. So it was a much more liberating position, but I could see how other colleagues would behave. I could see how the people surrounding you comforted the position of power, which makes it very difficult to discipline yourself and not to succumb to the facility of power. It has to do with power itself, because power is always a double-edged sword. Power is the one who has power, but it's also the one who submits to power. And it's a double game. They need each other. And unfortunately, it's like a roller coaster. And it asks much of you being in that position to have as well enough, I would say, how do you call it, wisdom to resist. It's the same analogy with when we talk about the king who is naked. It goes even to that absurd moment where you see something and you refuse to see it as such. And it needs a little child, the innocence of a child, to discover and to be able to express the fact that the king is naked. I'm not sure that art can change things. I think art can participate to change things. Art can change an individual. That I believe. I think there are moments where being just serious about a thematic is not enough. In particular, in a time where we are so much covered by images, by talks, by a lot of noise, parasites, that it's very hard to get heard. And there is as well an aspect, and I gave recently the example of this of President Bush again, where we came to a point where the words didn't mean anything anymore. And it was going more and more absurd. The whole discussion about torture. What is torture? At what time it becomes torture? At the second time, the third time, or 100 times, which is totally absurd. And at one point, the only way you can deal with it is what this young Iranian journalist did, Iraqi journalist. He threw his shoe at President Bush. And there are times where you just don't have any more words. And the only thing is to go straight to even more absurdity. And funny enough, that gave right away a new sense to this whole blah blah. And so my film is it's my way of throwing a shoe.